But I thought it was a great idea, and the guys, I remember when the incident first came down, it was very impressive. And the fact that the guy didn't have a gun, he had an AK-47 plus a 9mm pistol plus a box cutter knife. I mean, the guy was laden down for bear, and all of a sudden, he just runs at him.
At 95, Clint Eastwood finally opens up, touching on Rob Reiner's choices as a parent, and he doesn't tiptoe around it. Born Clinton Eastwood Jr. on May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, California, his life kicked off during the chaos of the Great Depression, when nothing felt stable and every day was a grind. His family stayed on the move while his father chased steady work, and that non-stop hustle burned independence and toughness straight into Eastwood's DNA, shaping the mindset that later defined both his career and his personal code. As a kid, Eastwood wasn't loud or flashy. He stayed low-key, watched everything, and spoke only when it mattered. That calm, controlled energy later became his trademark on screen. Long before fame came knocking, he lived a straight-up, regular life, stacking real-world experience instead of chasing shortcuts. He worked as a lifeguard, delivered papers, clocked hours in a steel mill, and even served in the U.S. Army during the Korean War era, learning discipline the hard way, like everyone else grinding to get by. Those early years kept him grounded and sharp, locking in a work ethic that fame never softened. While plenty of stars get swallowed by Hollywood, Eastwood never lost the view of someone who'd lived outside that bubble. His acting career started small in the 1950s with minor film roles, but in 1959, television finally gave him his first real shot, setting the stage for everything that came next. He landed the role of Rowdy Yates in the Western TV series Rawhide, a show that ran for 8 long seasons and blasted Clint Eastwood into living rooms across America. Millions of viewers locked in every week, and just like that, he was stamped as a reliable leading man with real presence. But instead of getting stuck in the TV lane, Eastwood made a risky move that shocked the industry and flipped his future upside down. In the mid-1960s, he packed up and headed to Europe, signing on for a run of low-budget westerns with Italian director Sergio Leone. Movies like A Fistful of Dollars, For a Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly didn't just hit, they rewrote the rules. These films reshaped the Western genre and unleashed Eastwood's legendary man with no name, a character who barely spoke but said everything with a stare, a pause, and raw attitude. With sharp eyes, cold confidence, and stripped-down dialogue, Eastwood introduced a new kind of hero, quiet, calculated, and heavy with moral weight. The impact was massive, turning him into an international star and changing action cinema forever. When he came back to Hollywood, he didn't slow down. In the 1970s, his role in Inspector Harry Callahan in Dirty Harry exploded into pop culture, sparking debate, reflecting the tense mood of the era, and locking Eastwood in as the face of hardline justice and unbreakable resolve. Already plotting his next move, Clint Eastwood was locked in on one thing: total creative control. He wasn't about to let studios box him in, so he founded Malpaso Productions, a power move that gave him rare independence in an industry built on interference. With his own company, Eastwood ran things his way, earning a reputation for being sharp, humble, and deeply respectful towards everyone on set. As a director, he moved fast and trusted his people. He avoided endless retakes, believed actors knew their craft, and pushed for raw, honest performances instead of polished fluff. That stripped-down style brought real authenticity to his films and built serious loyalty among cast and crew who knew he didn't waste time or play games. Over time, his work turned inward and got heavier. Movies like Unforgiven ripped apart the very legends he once stood for, delivering a dark, reflective take on violence, regret, and aging that hit hard. The film swept 4 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, locking Eastwood's status as a true heavyweight in cinema history. Later projects like $1 Million Baby, Gran Torino, Mystic River, and Letters from Iwo Jima doubled down on that depth, proving he wasn't scared to face uncomfortable truths about human nature head-on. What's wild is that Eastwood didn't slow down with age, he leveled up. While plenty of stars fade out or play it safe, Eastwood kept directing and acting well into his 80s and 90s, bringing real wisdom and calm reflection to every story he touched. His later films focused on legacy, forgiveness, and time moving forward, and they didn't feel desperate or outdated. They felt earned, thoughtful, and deeply lived in. Instead of chasing relevance, Eastwood delivered stories shaped by experience and quiet observation beyond the screen. There's a patience and compassion in his later work that hits differently, like lessons passed down instead of speeches shouted out. That same sensitivity shows up in another side of him most people forget: his music. Eastwood is a skilled jazz pianist and composer, and music has always been part of his creative soul. In his films, the score doesn't overpower the moment. It slides in softly, adding emotion without screaming for attention. That subtle style mirrors the man himself: calm, reflective, and very human.
Off camera, Clint Eastwood's personal life, especially his marriages and family connections, has drawn just as much curiosity as his film career. While he's always carried a stoic public image, his private world tells a more layered story, shaped by long-term relationships, change over time, and a strong sense of responsibility toward his children. On December 19, 1953, Clint Eastwood married Maggie Johnson, a relationship that would end up shaping a huge chapter of his life. Back then, Eastwood wasn't a legend. He was a struggling actor trying to get noticed, grinding it out with no guarantees. Maggie came from a steadier, more traditional background, and their worlds couldn't have been more different at the start. Maggie married Clint long before fame flipped his life upside down. Their marriage stretched across more than 30 years, surviving the wild transformation from near anonymity to global stardom as Eastwood's career exploded in the late 1950s and 1960s, first through television's Rawhide and later with the breakout Man with No Name films. The pressure started piling up fast. Long shoots, constant travel, and non-stop attention slowly strained their bond in ways few couples could handle. Still, that marriage brought 2 children into the world, each carving out their own lane instead of riding his shadow. Their son, Kyle Eastwood, born in 1968, found his passion in music, not movies. He built a respected career as a jazz bassist and composer, earning his stripes through talent and dedication, and even contributed to film scores, including projects connected to his father, proving the creative drive clearly ran deep in the family. Their daughter, Allison Eastwood, born in 1972, carved her own creative lane too. She stepped into acting and filmmaking, later making a name for herself as a director and environmental activist. Even though Clint Eastwood wasn't always around in the traditional sense because of his non-stop workload, he stayed connected to his kids and backed their goals. Instead of forcing them to follow his path, he pushed independence and creative freedom, making it clear they had to earn their own wins. The marriage to Maggie Johnson officially hit a breaking point in 1984 after years of personal struggles and long stretches apart. By then, the distance had taken its toll. Reports at the time claimed Johnson received a major divorce settlement, estimated between $25 and $30 million, reflecting the length of their marriage and Eastwood's massive financial success by that stage of his career. Still, the split didn't turn ugly. Over the years, both Clint and Maggie spoke about each other with respect, making it clear that even though fame and clashing lifestyles pulled them apart, the relationship itself mattered and left a lasting mark on both their lives. More than a decade later, Eastwood entered another major chapter when he married Dina Ruiz on March 31, 1996. Ruiz, a television news anchor, was much younger than Eastwood, and the relationship instantly lit up the media. Unlike his first marriage, this one began when Eastwood was already a full-blown icon, an Oscar-winning director and a permanent fixture in Hollywood history. Dina Ruiz became a familiar face at Clint Eastwood's side during this era, stepping up at major public events and even stepping into the spotlight alongside him. She occasionally joined interviews and even reality television, offering rare peeks into Eastwood's normally locked-down private world. In 1996, the couple welcomed their daughter, Morgan Eastwood, adding a new and deeply personal chapter to his life. Morgan was raised mostly outside the Hollywood circus, but as she got older, she tested the waters with acting and modeling, appearing in a handful of films and TV projects. By most accounts, Eastwood was a hands-on, deeply committed father to Morgan, especially later in life. He spoke more openly about the value of stability, presence, and family, revealing a softer side far removed from his tough, emotionally restrained screen image. That softer dynamic showed a different Clint, more patient, more openly paternal, and less guarded. Still, the marriage wasn't immune to pressure. In August 2013, Dina Ruiz publicly confirmed that she and Eastwood were living apart, making it clear that...
Well, that came after we were talking about the film. They just have a book out on the thing. And when I was talking about how this happened, I was asking questions much like you are now. And then all of a sudden, I just looked at him and I said, I don't know if I can find guys with the same faces and the same enthusiasm. I'm sure I could have, but it just seemed like an interesting...
What followed played out fast and loud. Their separation quickly hit the headlines, and the 2014 divorce became a media frenzy. Reports pointed to tense moments, financial disputes, and arguments over personal boundaries, putting Eastwood's private life under a microscope like never before. In the end, the divorce was finalized, allowing both sides to move forward on their own terms. Beyond his 2 marriages, Eastwood's family story is often described as complicated and unconventional. He is widely believed to be the father of 8 children with 6 different women, a long-running point of speculation that has kept public curiosity burning for decades. Eastwood has always dodged giving exact numbers or breaking down private details, keeping his personal life locked tight. That silence isn't accidental. It lines up with his long-held belief that the work should matter more than gossip and tabloid noise. Still, what's clear is this: Clint Eastwood stayed connected to his children and showed up for them emotionally and professionally, even when those relationships didn't fit the traditional Hollywood mold. At 95, that consistency speaks louder than any headline. Now, after nearly a century of living, creating, and raising 8 children of his own, Eastwood has reached a phase where reflection outweighs restraint. He's worked with generations of filmmakers, lived through shifting cultural tides, and watched Hollywood reinvent itself again and again. These days, when he speaks, it's not for shock value, it's with the calm weight of experience. Recently, when asked about parenting in Hollywood and how his approach differs from others, Eastwood made rare comments that many took as a subtle but pointed reflection on Rob Reiner's parenting choices. There was no anger, no cheap shots, just perspective shaped by decades of balancing fame, responsibility, and fatherhood. I've never believed that protecting a child from the world prepares them for it, Eastwood said. Life isn't gentle, and pretending otherwise doesn't help anyone grow. He didn't name names or incidents, but the message landed hard. Eastwood went on to contrast his belief in independence with what he sees as a more indulgent, ideologic-driven style of parenting that gained traction in later Hollywood generations. There's a difference between loving your child and shielding them from every uncomfortable truth, he explained, cool, measured, and unmistakably firm. That statement sent quiet shockwaves through Hollywood circles because people knew exactly who he was hinting at. Without calling anyone out directly, Eastwood's comments were widely read as a clear contrast to how figures like Rob Reiner approached raising their children in the public eye. To many insiders, it sounded like a veteran calling out a softer, overmanaged parenting style that, in his view, traded resilience for comfort. Eastwood's philosophy was simple but firm. Kids don't grow strong by being insulated from reality. He believed struggle, accountability, and honest consequences build character, not constant reassurance or protection from criticism. In his eyes, Hollywood had slowly drifted toward coddling, confusing support with control, and he wasn't afraid to say that shift came with real costs. Those close to Eastwood say this mindset wasn't performative, it was how he lived. He expected his children to find their own footing, earn respect on their own terms, and face the world without a safety net disguised as guidance. That approach didn't always look warm or trendy, but it produced independence, grit, and self-awareness. By comparison, critics of Rob Reiner's parenting style have long argued that excessive involvement and ideological steering can blur boundaries between guidance and pressure. Eastwood's remarks didn't attack anyone personally, but they drew a sharp line between 2 generations of Hollywood values, and people noticed. At 95, Clint Eastwood isn't chasing approval or clout.
He's speaking from a place where legacy matters more than likability, and his words hit harder because they come from someone who's seen fame, family, and failure up close. Whether people agree or not, his message was loud and clear. Real preparation for life isn't comfortable, and it never has been. The reaction to Eastwood's words split Hollywood straight down the middle. Some praised him for finally saying what many veterans only whisper behind closed doors, but others felt the comments exposed a deep generational clash over values, parenting, and personal responsibility. Either way, nobody ignored it, and that alone proved how much weight his voice still carries at 95. Supporters argued Eastwood wasn't attacking anyone, he was warning them. To them, his message wasn't about politics or personalities, but about preparation. They pointed out that Hollywood fame can warp reality fast, and shielding children from criticism, failure, or accountability only makes that collision harsher later on. Eastwood, in their eyes, was speaking from scars earned, not opinions borrowed. On the flip side, critics pushed back hard. They claimed his outlook reflected an older, tougher era that doesn't always account for emotional nuance or changing social pressures. Some felt his stance risked oversimplifying parenting in an industry where exposure and scrutiny hit families differently than anywhere else. Still, Eastwood never followed up with clarifications or apologies. That silence spoke volumes. He let the words stand on their own, trusting people to wrestle with them however they chose. That's been his style forever. Say less, mean more, and move on. What made this moment hit harder was timing. At an age when most icons retreat into safe praise and legacy protection, Eastwood leaned into honesty instead. No smoothing edges, no trend chasing, no backpedaling. Being a great filmmaker doesn't make you a great father, Eastwood remarked, and that line landed heavy. Parenting isn't about applause or being admired. It's about letting your child fail, struggle, and learn who they are without a script. That belief has always driven him, both on screen and off, rooted in personal responsibility rather than performance or praise. Eastwood has long warned that piling ideology onto children, whether political, social, or cultural, can quietly weigh them down. He believes kids shouldn't grow up feeling like they're walking billboards for their parents' beliefs. They should grow up discovering their own, he said, making it clear that identity should be earned, not assigned. At this stage of his life, Eastwood no longer feels the need to soften his views for approval, but his words weren't harsh or judgmental. Instead, they carried concern for a generation raised under nonstop validation, constant exposure, and public pressure. If you raise a child to believe the world owes them something, you've already done them a disservice. The world doesn't owe us anything. That's the first lesson. In the end, his comments weren't really about Rob Reiner as a person. They were about a bigger shift in Hollywood parenting, one that favors protection over preparation. As he approaches the twilight of his life, Eastwood speaks with clarity earned through time, not controversy. You don't raise strong people by making life easy. You raise them by teaching them how to face it. A final warning, not an attack, and one that's hard to ignore. If this perspective made you think, make sure to like this video, subscribe for more deep dives, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and drop a comment below. Do you agree with Eastwood, or do you see it differently?